Welcome to the Sports Shuffle. I had a very fun Sunday. We'll talk about it. I am flying Ryan Ryan Gookers along with.
Gee, I wonder why you would possibly have had a fun Sunday along with the didn't have quite as fun Monday. Tampa Motor Mouth
Yeah.
Joel Verlin here. Even kind of a bummer bolt snooze as we start the old pod here. As apparently Vassie is going to be out for 2 months. Ah
Yeah. It's a
ah
long season.
ah ah as already you have a team that is the skeleton literally of their former selves. So, yeah, boy, buckle up, folks. But at
Comes
least,
due. The bill comes due at some point.
but the Rays did pop the bottles. So,
Yeah.
yeah, some bummer news, but some good news. Hopefully, they'll actually go past one round this year.
Hopefully.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
not to worry. We're here. We are here to talk football and ah, yeah, it was an interesting week because when you looked at this schedule, you were looking at the schedule and you were literally putting a lot of poop emojis
I told you it
on
was going to be better than it
most,
looked.
and as it turns out, for fantasy, the best way to describe this fantasy week is fantasy football. You're drunk, go home.
Yeah. I have one 0-3 team. It's in the league I care about most. So my life is not happy right now. Although the rest of the records are actually pretty good. A few 1-2s, but a lot of undefeated still left. A lot of one-loss teams. But then it's just right up there. That one hurts. Trying to get that one on track. Anyways, yeah, a lot of interesting games last week. We will try and keep because we're going to do 2 podcasts tonight because of travel things going on with me over the next couple of days. We will try and keep this podcast under the number of minutes that equals the amount of points the Dolphins scored on
Okay,
Monday.
but starting off with
Well, we got to have a
one.
disclaimer. This will not be a podcast that talks about 87 and the blonde chick like every other sports media broadcast is doing. I have my segment and final thought for that. That will be it. If you want entertainment news, go find it
My
somewhere else. It is not here.
my only thought, only thought on that was I definitely enjoyed the making of memes because I made a meme marked safe from all of the
The
Taylor
blonde
Swift,
chick.
the
Yeah.
blonde chick posts appearing at Arrowhead because holy flickin' Schmidt, that's pretty much what my timeline was Sunday.
Still is.
It's like all of a sudden
Still
like
is.
you're like
We're not
was
going
it
to talk about it. We're not
was
going to
there
talk
any
about it.
football?
We're not going to
No.
talk about it.
Everything was about
We're not going to talk about it. I have my thing that I'm going to do at the end.
yeah.
But that's it.
I
We're not,
I
if you want
I
that news, go find it somewhere else.
can
Anyways,
can we answer a subject with a song and from a entirely different performer? I dedicate the entire social media feed about that person with the Gloria Estefan song, Go Away.
Fall Out Boy's got a song called "I Don't Care." That's up there. Yeah, that's the one that first comes to mind. Anyways, let's go to
Yeah,
the recaps. We'll do
there
news
was
and
some
picks.
football.
Yeah, we'll do
Not
our
that
news. We'll do our picks in the second one.
not
So
that you would freaking know by the
anyway,
media, but there was some football and some pretty damned interesting football
yeah,
too.
Thursday night was not so interesting. 30-12 win by the 49ers over the New York Giants. Already covered that one. Gonna try and move quick because we're doing 2 of these. So
Yeah, because the
Giants
Thursday night
bad, Niners good.
Thursday night game pretty much you sum up with Debo and Jones Waller. That's a pretty good summary, right?
Yeah, it's pretty good. All right, going to Sunday, the Ravens fall in overtime to the Indianapolis Colts, led by Gardner Minshew.
Minshew
Um,
Mania ran wild.
Colts might not be a bad team. I mean, this AFC South might not be what we expected because the Colts are 2-1. They are first place. They look very, very good, even without Anthony Richardson. They're pretty good with him, and they take care of business. Now the Ravens are a beat up team. There was some inclement weather in this one, but At the same time, the Colts with a backup quarterback, a backup running back, because you got to remember, Jonathan Taylor is still technically the starter when healthy. I mean, he's not Zach Moss,
Technically.
but Zach Moss is the one carrying the load and carrying it pretty well. And the Colts, 2-1, back-to-back wins. The first one over Houston, you go, okay, that's Houston,
Ooh, the
which looks
tag.
better this week than it did last week. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But the Colts, 2-1, Ravens, 2-1.
Yeah, because Lamar spread it around, so nobody really dominated in fantasy. So that was the bad part for fantasy owners, as Flowers led the way. Andrews was kept out of the end zone. Melvin Gordon was the best on the ground, rostered in about 1% of Yahoo leagues, and Indy was pretty much, as you said, the Zach Moss Pittman show, as Indy escapes M&T Bank with a dub, as Ryan's favorite kicker seemed to be a sorcerer.
Matt Gay, the first
Yes.
kicker for 450 yarders to
When,
put this one away.
when did he cast a spell and change personages with Justin Tucker and we weren't looking, like some sort of body transposition thing?
Yeah. Ravens, though, disappointing loss. They play the Browns next, who we'll talk about here shortly. The Colts, though, 2-1. You got to be impressed early on after a team that was abysmal last year. Browns, 27-3 win over the Tennessee
Speaking
Titans.
of abysmal teams, a team like played.
Derrick Henry, 20 yards on double-digit carries. Not great.
Yeah.
I mean, the Browns have a good defense. We know that. That's fine. Everything is fine. If you have Derrick Henry, it's fine. It might not be fine. But Deshaun Watson looked like the old Deshaun Watson for the first time in a very long time. Amari Cooper had a big day that was a little negated by an out-of-bounds call that he was just not out of bounds on, but very good day. Jerome Ford, not exceptional in this one, but did get a touchdown. Was good enough. Tennessee's got a good run defense. So I think you saw what you wanted to see out of the Cleveland Browns this week. We'll see what they do against the Ravens next week, but it might start to be time to panic for the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, because Browns bounce back from the crushing injury to Nick Chubb. Watson looked more like the Watson of old. Ford was a pretty nice fill-in, and Elijah Moore may have not been a super splash for fantasy, but he got it done on the field. And while Titans were major poop emoji, how about Henry managers had an even more WTF week than week 1 and week 2? Two fantasy points, as of course the one down has to be Derrick Henry.
Yeah, that 0-3 monstrosity at the top here. That team, Justin Fields, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, DK Metcalf. And it was Dallas Goedert for a while. Now it's going to be Sam Laporta, but bust on top of bust on top of bust. Yeah, life is bad over there. Yeah, if you have Derrick Henry, I don't think it's time to like all out panic because Cleveland is a good run defense. We knew that coming in.
Yeah, Ford definitely, I would say. Well, naturally, Watson would probably be the up because he's looking more like the $230 freaking million man that they paid for.
Imagine that. You get a full off season of practice and week-to-week games and all that. You're not sitting out for 2.5 years, and you look pretty good. It's weird how that happens.
How's about
Next up, next two games are going to involve teams that are playing tonight, both coming out on the winning side of their game last week. The Lions 20-6 wins over the Atlanta Falcons. Both teams now 2-1. The Lions just a very complete game, very, very good on defense, shut down the rushing attack of the Atlanta Falcons. If you do that, you just basically destroyed the Atlanta Falcons. But the offense was serviceable against a surprisingly good Atlanta defense. We have to give Atlanta some credit. They were very good so far this year. Top 10 defense on the year. But the Lions, 2-1. They face the Packers tonight. We'll do our pick in the, well, actually, end of this one, we'll do the pick because that is how we do the Thursday night games. And the Lions have been very impressive in really all three of their games in one way or the other. They did fall up a little bit short against Seattle in week number 2 in overtime, but even that, Seattle's getting on a little bit of a roll, so maybe not that bad of a loss. The Falcons, 2-1, kind of looked like what we expected out of the Falcons. Once they fall behind, they just cannot keep up.
Yeah, the ultimate battle of stud rookie position players, the battle between Bijan and Jameer was won by Sam Laporta. That's right. The
Laporta,
Detroit
a
tight
tight
end
end,
had the
2 on the
best
season.
fantasy day above expectation of just about anybody on the field in this one, pulling in 8 catches for 88 yards, long touchdown receptions, and the Lions took down the Falcons 20 to just 6. Jameer Gibbs flashed his talent, but was definitely limited in the passing game, while Bijan Robinson and the Falcons offense looked mostly stagnant. And pretty much if you started Bijan or anybody else on the Falcons, you had a lot of blank looks, pun intended.
Yeah. Yeah, the Lions looked very, very good in this one. Sam Laporta is rapidly becoming one of my favorite players in football, period. I was very high on him before the season started, um, and it's paid off. He's now in starting lineups in dynasty leagues where I'm benching guys like Darren Waller, trying to trade them away just because I'm more confident that Sam Laporta is the better player at this point. Get the value I used to get on Waller. But the Lions 2-1, they're going to face the winner of the next game, the Green Bay Packers, who with a win 18-17 over the New Orleans Saints. Now, this was a game that was ugly for the Packers for about the first 2.5 to 3 quarters, but they come from a 17-0 deficit at halftime to win this game 18-17. Shoulder injury to Derek Carr, considered a multi-week but not season-ending injury. So bring back crab legs, man, Jameis Winston to start for the Saints. And as soon as he
Eat
got in this
that
game,
W
the offense went down. And
or
welcoming
not.
back Jameis Winston, the Saints are also welcoming back next week Alvin Kamara. So we'll see what this offense looked like. It's been really, really bad to the first 3 weeks. The Packers looked bad for the first about 3 quarters, but they turned it around. A last-minute missed field goal by Blake Grupe sent the Saints to their first loss of the season. Both of these teams 2-1, and Packers host the Lions tonight, with the Lions the favorite by 2 points for the first time at Lambeau in 40 years.
I'm once again doing one up, one down for time constraints. So my up for this game definitely would be one Luke Musgrave. Might be Luke Musgrave if he's available on your waiver wire. And my down, that's easy. Both Derek Carr going down and nor Jameis Winston, famous Jameis sighting, wasn't able to get things done, even though you had receiving core of Olave, Thomas, and even Rashid Shaheed, thing we all love to say without trying to screw it up too much. You just it's going to be an interesting, but Saints and Bucks are going to also be interesting this week. But this was you're right. This was an ugly game.
Yeah. Next up, Houston 37-17
Houston,
win over the Jaguars. Both teams exit this game at 1-2.
what are the Jaguars
CJ
doing?
Stroud, no interceptions to the first 3 games with over 120 attempts. That is the most by a rookie. He has been fantastic, at least the last couple of weeks. He's in the conversation with Cam Newton and Justin Herbert in some subcapacities. And the Texans, with no offensive line, are moving the ball offensively very well with CJ Stroud. So the Texans might have gotten a guy, might have got a really good quarterback of the future. The Jaguars, though, after that week 1 win against the Colts, they did lose to Kansas City. Offense looked bad in that one. Kansas City's defense looked pretty good. So you could kind of write that one off. This one, though, losing by 20 to Houston hits a little bit differently. Houston might be a lot better than we are expecting going into the season, but 20 better than the Jaguars is still a surprise.
Yeah, definitely for this game, up would be. I know you could go easily for the man behind center, but my up's going to be a surprise. Evan Ingram. You could also put Travis Etienne in there, but Ingram is slowly becoming a pretty decent tight end of his own right. And while maybe not one of the super sexy picks, he's becoming consistent and dependable week in, week out.
Yeah, at tight end in fantasy, you are happy with someone who gets 5 or 6 receptions for 60 yards and the occasional touchdown. That's what Evan Ingram's doing, and that's very valuable in fantasy. Next
Hold
up,
on.
I'm excited.
My down is definitely with an asterisk mark, Dameon Pierce, because yeah, I know you're kind of going, yeah, boy, but don't forget gave him a couple more weeks when he actually has, that thing called an offensive line behind him. And then I think you'll start to see his numbers and performance go up. So that's sort of a subjective down with Nasser. So now I can get back to being excited again because I know why.
Yes. Next up, Miami has the Dolphins, the greatest football team. And this week they took the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen.
I think the Dolphins would be 12 up instead of 1 up in this case.
Yes, the Dolphins hold the Broncos to 20 while scoring 70. The most points since...
What's your question? What's your question?
The last time an NFL team scored 70 points, man had not walked on the moon. It's been a little bit. Now, 5 rushing touchdowns, 5 passing touchdowns, 4 of which by Tua, 2 of which were by the right hand, and he is a left-handed quarterback. He had more right-handed passing touchdowns than about half of the right-handed quarterbacks in football last week, including Russell Wilson, who was not bad in this game. I want to say that. Russell Wilson was not bad. Cortland Sutton, a couple fumbles. Brandon Johnson, some penalties that pulled touchdowns off the board that led to lost points where either a field goal or they didn't get anything due to a turnover. And they did it without Jalen Waddle. Devin Achane, as he has said is how his name is pronounced, over 200 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns. He is now the running back 3 on the season and not even the running back 1 fantasy-wise on his team, as Raheem Mostert also went for 4 touchdowns, is the running back 1 in the NFL so far this season. Dolphins officially have the best rushing attack in football, but when you put up over 350 yards rushing, it tends to help when you're only 3 weeks in. For the Broncos, as bad as it was, and as bad as they are 0-3, and they are 3.5-point favorites in their game the next week because they play Chicago.
Yeah, because have to do 3 up here. Devin Achane, because I know that everybody thought it was Achane, but it's really Achane, which however you say it, still 233 total freaking yards and 4 freaking touchdowns. Nice coming out party for the rookie. Raheem Mostert. When's the last time 2 teammates on the same team scored 4 rushing touchdowns in the same flipping game? Seriously. And Tua Tagovailoa, definitely not salty Tua this week. He threw more touchdown passes than completions on the state of court.
Yeah, 23 of 26 for 309 and 4 touchdowns.
And for, of course, the 3 down, yeah, definitely the Broncos defense. I think that was a college defense out there, not
I don't know if it was that good.
Maybe high school. And Samaje Perine, if you were really hyped for his production this year, once again, 5 touches, 24 total yards, you're just scratching your head. And you kind of have to give him a down because his team lost, even though it was far from Russell Wilson's worst game. He was clearly outclassed by Tua by far.
He was outclassed by Tua, but he was not the problem in this game. Some bad fumbles, a weird interception, and just the team. It looked like the Dolphins just made the Broncos quit. And I haven't seen a football team quit, but the Dolphins hanging 70. The most impressive offensive performance most people have ever seen and possibly will ever see. Again, we haven't seen 70 since 1966. It's possible that'll be the best any of us will ever see. And it was the most impressive team of the week. And they go into week 4 going to Buffalo with the chance to not only make a giant statement in the division, but also go 2 up on the entire division if they can win that game at a minimum.
2 up?
2 up would be great. Next up, it was the AFC Chargers versus the NFC Chargers, and the AFC Chargers win. Of course, we're talking Chargers and Vikings. A late interception by Kirk Cousins after it doinked off about 3 sets of hands, mostly his receivers, sealed the game. Justin Herbert was fantastic. Keenan Allen, one of the best receiving games you'll ever see. Mike Williams, a great game before tearing his ACL. and he was off to a pretty good start to the season. So he is done for the season, but the Chargers 28-24 win over the Vikings keeps them in contention in a very deep AFC. They keep only a game behind the Chiefs, a long season. 0-3 would have been tough. Ask the Vikings. They are 0-3 behind both the Packers and the Lions at 2-1, and provided it's not a tie tonight, they can be no closer than 2 games back through 3 weeks. The Chargers, though, without Austin Eckler, looks like they've got an identity. Eckler did practice, though, so we'll see how he can do. It's all about cutting, it sounds like. If he can cut, he'll be back in the action sooner rather than later.
This game, I've got to do 3 up and 3 down just because I'll make it fast. 3 up. Justin Herbert had over 400 yards passing, 0 turnovers, was fantastic. This is probably why you drafted him. Keenan freaking Allen was unstoppable, had a franchise record 18 receptions, of course. And JJ over 100 yards once again, and he scored his first touchdown of the year. Too bad it didn't really matter for Minnesota. 3 down, of course. KC threw the game-sealing interception at the end of the game, led a ton of game-winning drives last year, but for some reason you got to wonder what happened to the Magic. The Vikings defense unit terrible. You had zilch pass rush, absolutely zilch. And Brandon Staley, Chargers won, but not because of him. That's my 3 up and 3 down for this game.
All right, moving on, because I guess we have to talk about this one. Patriots 15-10 win over the New York
Jets. The game.
They played the game. Both teams are 1-2, and frankly, there's not much here I want to talk about. So, Joel, up and down?
Yeah, just other than the game being itself down, just I'll do 1 up and 1 down. We'll keep it short for this one. Zeke Elliott, double E. He was fed today. Looked like his old days in Dallas, and keeping some hope alive that some fantasy value still out there in the world of fantasy football. And 1 down. Oh my good God! You're wondering. Everyone had to be looking for Twitter for Breece Hall, 2 straight dud weeks in a row from a guy who we all probably easily drafted in the first or the second rounds.
Yeah, the Jets are bad. Zach Wilson is just
they had their savior. They had their savior, Trevor Siemian. They have their savior.
Yeah, this is a team that on Hard Knock was saying, you see that throw by Aaron Rodgers? That's our guy. We can win anything with him. And then he got hurt, and now they're like, well, we have Zach Wilson. We can't win anything with him.
Can't do it, but insert the Muttley laugh from Laugh Olympics.
Yeah, can't do it. Can't win with him. Can't win with him. Yeah, both teams 1-2. I don't think playoffs are on the table for either one of them. Next up, Bills 37-3 over the Commanders. They were just dominant. Their defense really stepped up. The Commanders looked more like the Commanders. Again, the Commanders beat the Cardinals and the Broncos in the first 2 weeks. So the Bills stepping up and pounding them, even though we're 2-0.
Commanders probably were reduced to privates today.
Buffalo, though, looked like the Bills of old. We'll see how they look against a team like Miami, who's going to be their best offense they will face all year and the best defense they've faced so far. Because the Jets, they were kind of giving the Jets that win. Buffalo, though, 2-1, will host Miami next week in a big-time showdown early season test that hopefully will be one of the best games of the year.
Yeah, pretty much with the Bills, everything is about Stephon Diggs. The Bills D definitely helped you win fantasy week. They were freaking awesome. And James Cook, very, very nice fantasy value. And you're just having to wonder what's going on with the Commanders. Just Sam Howell, everybody was howling about him beforehand, and yeah, not so much now. Antonio Gibson, just 5 touches in the entire game, trying to figure out what's gone from a superstar to timeshare. And yeah, the Commanders D, just 8 passes defended and only 1 QB hit. 8 passes defended, 1 QB hit. So hopefully you didn't have to play the Commanders DST this week. Youch.
Yeah, that's not ideal. Next up, Seahawks 37-27 win over the Carolina Panthers, led by Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton made Adam Thielen look great once again. Miles Sanders had one of his better games of the year, but the Seahawks, Tyler Lockett, not his best game. DK Metcalf, not his best game, but Kenneth Walker was fantastic as usual. The Seahawks now 2-1. Look a lot better. That loss to the Rams looks a lot less offensive than it did after week 1. Panthers 0-3. They should get Bryce Young back. Whether that's better or worse, we'll see. But they should get him back next week.
Some positives, as you just mentioned. Kenneth Walker just absolutely explosive, and DK Metcalf. You just have pretty much a crowded wide receiver room, and he stands far apart. He is the main man in that room, and every Carolina skill player when Dalton is starting at quarterback, you have to wonder all of a sudden just what's going on with Bryce Young when you have the red rifle come out and it looks a little bit different in just a couple just enigmas. I mean, you're just trying to figure out JSN what's going on. His talents is off the charts. He's got separation. Just why is he not getting more targets? Bryce Young, just inactive for the game, just trying to figure out what's going on with the Panthers. We're just trying to figure out what the enigma is there. That's just one of my favorite words, especially with a team like this. And Sanders, he looked good with the ball in his hands, but just that O-line is just killing every fantasy value on that team.
Next up, the Cardinals beat the Cowboys 28-16 in Arizona. Dak Prescott throws
these crappy C team names?
Dak Prescott throws a late interception to seal the fate of the Cowboys, but the Cardinals were dominant throughout this game. The Cowboys, after beating Zach Wilson and Daniel Jones, struggled against Joshua Dobbs.
Hey.
This week they get the Patriots coming up, and then the week after that they get San Francisco. So got a couple tough matchups coming up for Dallas. We'll see what they look like from there, but I think the Cardinals are very close to 3-0, blowing massive leads both of the first two games before holding on this week. And I think the veil of, maybe the Cowboys are something for real this year got pulled back in a big way this week.
Yeah, because you had Tony Pollard doing Tony Pollard things. But, Dak Prescott, under 250 yards passing with his most attempts this season at only one touchdown with an interception to go with it. Not exactly what you would call an elite quarterback fantasy performance.
Yeah, next up, we talk about a team that's a 3.5-point home underdog to a team that gave up 70 last week, and that is the Chicago Bears losing to the Kansas City Chiefs 41-10. Nothing exciting was happening off the field in this game, but Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce looked like
when you're doing the Men in Black, flash pen to erase everybody's memories.
Yeah, it was just a great game on the field. Nothing outside of it was important. Travis Kelce with the touchdown. The Jerick McKinnon 2 on a couple touches. I think only like 5. Pacheco looked solid. CEH was even involved a little bit, but this team looked complete for the first time all year. Defense looks scary. Justin Fields looks like he was lost, beyond lost. Hey, here's a roadmap on how to get home, and he couldn't find anything. He was falling off the earth without having any other options. If he had to go from his right foot to his left foot, he would have gotten lost. The Bears still suck. They are 0-3, and again, they are a 3.5-point home underdog to Denver the week after Denver lost by 50.
Yeah, the 3 up for this one. I'll have to edit one because I know of your mandate regarding a certain somebody. So, 3 up. Patrick Mahomes, whether of course Pat Mahomes. Somebody, something. How was that for redacting everything? And the third up was the Chiefs defense. Looked pretty decent and gave Chicago fits, and pretty much the 3 down is everything Chicago did.
Yeah,
they're not a good team.
Again, we'll talk about the redacted at the very end in a final thought that's going to be fun.
I thought you would appreciate that.
Yeah. All right, next up, the Sunday night football game where math is not McDaniel's strong point. as he kicks a field goal down by 8 because he didn't realize 2-point conversions existed and would have added up to 8.
Ron Rivera keeping track of the playoff formula is knocking on the door also.
Yeah. Steelers win 23-18. The defense for the Steelers is great. The offense leaves a lot to be desired. We'll see how they look next week against Houston. But the Raiders, 1-2, Jimmy Garoppolo still in concussion protocol. We'll see if they have him for week number 4. If not, well, we'll see what they can do without him because I think it's Aiden O'Connell as the backup, or it could still be Brandon
no
Hoyer.
idea who that is.
It could be Brandon Hoyer still, but either way, it's a downgrade.
Yes, for this game, there's some up and down, not a whole lot of it, but believe it or not, let's see, Kenny Pickett, mature performance. Jacob E. Myers, standout performance from the former Patriots. So look pretty quick, healthy targets as a WR2. And Devontae Adams, a huge night for the superstar as, the 19 targets, 2 scores made fantasy managers happy. The 3 down. Jimmy G, an abysmal showing from the quarterback who, of course, had the injury and just, so much limitation. We've seen this so many times before. Najee Harris, the Steelers' run game still a big issue as Harris owners are just shaking their head. And another person who's making you shake your head in fantasy once again, Josh Jacobs, another pedestrian performance. Good God.
Star running back for the 0-3 team in my fantasy world. It hurts.
Turn them on, turn on those fed songs.
And thank God we had a doubleheader on Monday night, so we didn't have one crappy game. We had 2
crappy games.
Oh, the Eagles win 25-11 over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers just did not look on the same level as the Eagles. I think it's fair to say they aren't on the same level as the Eagles. Of course, the Eagles are the reigning NFC champions and one of 3 remaining undefeated teams in the NFL, San Francisco, Miami, and Philadelphia being those 3. But the Eagles offense still leaves a lot to be desired. That defense looks legitimate, but if they face a team, which they will, like in Dallas, that has a great defense, San Francisco, down the line, great defense, great offense, Miami, all-time offense, we'll see what they can do. I know the Eagles played the Cowboys twice and the Dolphins at least once. I believe they also played the Niners at some point this season. So we'll see how all those look. For the Buccaneers, Mike Evans had a case of the drops early, but did salvage a pretty good game and have one of the best catches I've ever seen, one-handed behind his head. But I think the hype behind the Buccaneers and the hope did get deflated a little bit. Still 2-1, still tied for first place in a very winnable division. But when it comes to being toe-to-toe with the Eagles and the top teams in the NFL, I think the Buccaneers got a reality check that they are not quite there.
Yeah, Eagles stomp the Bucs. The best meme for this would be, Charlie Brown on his back after Lucy pulls away the ball, because Lucy pulling away the ball was reality, and Charlie Brown on his back with me picking the Bucs, thinking that they had hope. The 3 up for this game, of course, A.J. Brown, he's always open, lived up to his nickname this week. Just Bucs secondary is just like he trashed them. DeAndre Swift, a Swift who actually matters. If you saw what I did there as the game ball, of course, nice to see him on the rise and back to ascended place in fantasy football once again. And Mike Evans, just a rough night as he had a couple of tough drops, as you mentioned. One of those drops is just imagine what could have been if he had held on. And of course, 3 down. If you started him in fantasy football, Rashard White, you're just waiting for that good matchup to happen. Baker Mayfield, just, tough matchup, rough against that Eagles D. Yeah. And Kenneth Gainwell, if DeAndre Swift had a good game, that means that Kenneth Gainwell definitely suffered in the game script. So, that stomping is over, and let's go to the other exciting doubleheader game that awaits. Boy.
Well, the Bengals going to win. Jamar Chase was great. Outside of that, pretty dull game, all things considered. Burrow is definitely injured, playing through it, and you can tell T. Higgins, he forgot how to catch. Got me a win in the 16-teamer where Joel and I are both 3-0, playing each other this week.
Somehow.
So, hey, good news on that front for both of us. The Rams, though, Matt Stafford, worst game of the season. Not a big surprise coming up against a very desperate Bengals team. Both teams exit at 1-2. Kyren Williams, very disappointing in this one. But other than Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua was okay. Not a great fantasy night for anybody involved outside of Jamar Chase.
Yeah, 3 up. Atwell was lone bright spot for the team. Jamar Chase, of course, had a monster night, but one would have been stronger if Burrow hadn't spent 3 quarters struggling like Joe Namath. And Joe Mixon, even though as impressive as Chase and the box score looked, you're just scratching going, okay, Mixon should have looked like he had a lot more than he came away with. Of course, 3 down. Burrow just did not look right most of the night. Overthrow, repeat as needed and endlessly it seemed. Matthew Stafford just threw more sidearm passes than he had completions in 3/4. Just looked completely out of sync. And Kyren Williams just victim except for just one play, but most of the game he got Stafforded in. So, usually as the quarterback goes, so doth the offense. And just an ugly game, ugly night. Thank God. Are we done with the doubleheaders yet? Because they'd suck.
Only one next week, so that's a good thing. I think there are a couple more doubleheaders down the line, but at least only one Monday Night Football late game next week. Seattle at the New York Giants. Anyways, Joel, final thoughts before I have my rant.
Okay, since I know where you're going, my final thought is I'll save my second one final thought for the next podcast because I think it's more germane after we talk about next week, talking about should have been a shift in the schedule. But my final thought is I know who you want to go away. My go away this week would be, a certain quarterback who's not playing and who will hopefully never play in the National Football League ever again. Wrote the Jets to please, can he get on the practice squad? I am, of course, talking about Colin Kaepernick.
And he disappears. Yeah, Colin Kaepernick wrote to the Jets to try and get on the roster, and the Jets, to quote Geno Smith, they didn't write it back. Colin Kaepernick is a joke. I know Joel will be back in a second. We'll let him finish his final thought as he comes back into play. 3, 2, 1. Well timed as always, Joel. Back to you.
Yes, as I was saying, Colin Kaepernick, of course, wrote to the Jets. Thank you. I saw you were trying to fill in as I was disappearing from the time-space continuum. Briefly here, wrote the Jets tried to get on the practice squad. And, of course, we all remember how that pro day workout for him worked out so well and how accommodating the Kaepernick team was to all of the NFL representatives that came out. He needs to go away. Please.
Yeah, he needs to go away. And I'm going to say something. This isn't necessarily about the people I'm going to talk about. It's more about the coverage. But we're going to talk about it. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. I don't care. I don't care what you do in your private lives. I don't care. Most people who follow sports don't care. Now, I will admit, I've seen the numbers. Travis Kelce gained about 400,000 Twitter followers. It was one of the most viewed games in NFL history for people in the Taylor Swift fan demographic, women 18 to 25 or 31 or whatever it was.
I have something that actually falls in exactly in line with what you're talking about, if I may interject.
Yeah.
There's a post from Reddit, No Stupid Questions subreddit. This is, quote, somebody's asking, why are people in USA obsessed with who Taylor Swift is dating? Last 2 days, my entire TikTok feed is about how Taylor Swift was at some football game to meet some guy named Travis. I mean, that's great, but do we really need millions of videos to comment on this? And the poster was European.
Yeah. Again, I understand for tweens, teens, and your basic white women in the 18 to 30 age bracket. Taylor Swift is God to them. So I understand why they care. But for the love of God, if you are a sports media outlet, Your audience does not care. I saw Barstool the day after the Dolphins have a literally historic.
70
Most of
burger
us
on
have.
the freaking Broncos.
If you were born in 1967 and you are 56 years old, you have never seen this happen. In fact, there's a lot of things that have never happened in the NFL ever that happened in the Dolphins game. And yet the first three stories are Taylor Swift was in a box with Jason and Travis Kelce's mom. Look at her react to Travis Kelce's touchdown. She said naughty words. And then there was another stupid, the Travis Kelce Taylor Swift dating story has many dark turns if we look into it. Then the fourth headline was Miami Dolphins possibly greatest NFL offensive explosion. And you're like, that should be number one. I don't care about this little blonde chick in the press box with the Mama Kelce watching football. And every time he touched the ball, thank God this game got pulled from TV.
It's insane how many Instagram followers Kelce got just because of
almost 400,000. His jersey sales went up by 400%. I understand, like for the NFL, they're like, no, this is great. This is great because people are spending money on my product. No, they're spending money on Taylor Swift because they're dumb. Every time Travis Kelce touched the ball, got to do it in the press box, and she's like, yeah,
the only reason that the Chiefs game is on Sunday Night Football is because they're hoping one or two shots of who.
And she's already going to be at the game, so it's going to be every time Kelce does the ball. Look at the football!
Not because the Jets are a decent matchup, I'll save that thought for my.
The Jets suck. This game should not be in prime time. This game should be buried in the 1 o'clock window.
I'll do that one now. I'm wondering why the Miami Buffalo game is not flexed.
I can tell you why.
Football.
They don't flex games this early in the season. That starts after week 8. So they should have said, you know what? The Dolphins-Bills playoff game was exceptional. Both of the regular season games, the Heat and the Snow game, were very, very good,
all thinking
great games.
Going to be Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes.
I get that, and I understand that, but come on. Would you rather have Tua and Josh Allen, two young guys who have proven that they can be all-time elite guys, or would you rather it be a possibility of what could be the corpse of Aaron Rodgers and Pat Mahomes? Musgrave getting a tight. I don't think he gets a touchdown tonight. I think Christian Watson's back. But we got to do our pick still. Anyways, we'll do that in the next one. But yeah, my final thought is just for the love of God, and I know it will stop putting Taylor Swift on TV at football games. Your audience does not care at all.
I was waiting for like a WWF, or I should say AEW, since I think they're probably might be the new wrestling kings, and where you have a wrestling-like segment where you have Carrie Underwood is coming on to sing to sing the song, and then all of a sudden Taylor Swift attacks her and takes over and sings instead.
No, we got to stop the madness with the press box looky-loos because Taylor Swift is at a game. It's just not worth it. And my final thought is please stop. Just please stop. Please, if you're an entertainment source, entertainment site, please go ahead and run that story. Sports Center, ESPN, NFL.com, Barstool Sports, anybody else who does sports and not sports commentary like your Tom Grossi's and Brandon Pernas and some of your YouTube guys. If you're a sports media conglomerate, ignore it. Ignore it. Don't make that the headline story. It can be mentioned as part of the footnote game.
They want the clicks.
I know. And frankly, the fact that we've said Taylor Swift's name this many times means it's probably going to be our most popular podcast ever because the algorithm will be like, they're talking Taylor Swift. And I'm going to be sitting here talking crap about how they put Taylor Swift on TV all the time. And then we're going to have an army of Swifties hating us. And
no,
you the best press we've ever had.
You need to put on a blonde wig and lip sync to shake it off.
You know what? Yeah, they'll shake it off. And if they don't like me, I got a blank space for you. Anyways, that's the time for this one. We'll do all of our picks, including Lions and Packers. I don't think Musgrave gets a touchdown tonight because we did have a question. I say no. Joel? Musgrave, tight end?
Tight end, I would say probably
Tight end
not.
for a
Because
touchdown? No. All right, we both agree. No touchdown for Musgrave tonight, so he probably is going to get one. But that's
I'll
our time for
probably
this
get
one.
two.
We'll be back, do news. We'll be back, do picks. And with that, we go.